You are being lied to, not by a person, by an industry. Every bag of fertilizer you have ever bought, every bottle of plant feed, every spray, every granule, every product with numbers on the label, NPK, the 10th of October, 10, slow release, fast release, all of it is built on one assumption: that your soil cannot feed your plants on its own. That without intervention, without products, your garden will fail. That assumption is worth billions of dollars a year to the company selling you those products, and it is completely false. This family has not bought a bag of fertilizer in living memory. They have not sprayed a single chemical on this land in 4 generations. And their harvests every single year are larger, more nutritious, and more consistent than the average chemically dependent garden down the road. How? Not magic, not luck, not some exotic technique that requires special equipment or special knowledge. A system, a simple, ancient, deeply logical system that works with the way soil actually functions instead of bypassing it. In the next 10 minutes, I am going to give you that system. Every part of it, in detail. And by the end of this video, you will understand something that the fertilizer industry has spent decades making sure you never figured out. Your soil already has everything your plants need. The Amish just know how to unlock it. If you have spent money on fertilizer this year and your garden still disappointed you, hit like right now. You need to hear every word of this. The fertilizer trap here is something the fertilizer bag never tells you. Synthetic fertilizer does not feed your soil. It feeds your plant while slowly starving your soil. There is a difference, and that difference is everything. Healthy soil is alive, teeming. 1 teaspoon of genuinely healthy soil contains more living organisms than there are people on this planet. Bacteria that fix nitrogen from the air. Fungi that mine phosphorus and zinc from rock particles. Protozoa that regulate bacterial populations. Earthworms that physically restructure the soil and deposit the most nutrient-rich amendment in existence directly in the root zone. This living system has one job: breaking down organic matter and converting it into plant-available nutrition. Continuously, automatically, for free. When you add synthetic fertilizer, you bypass this system entirely. You inject nutrients directly in chemical form, fast, available, immediately absorbed. The plant grows. You see results. You feel like it's working. But the soil biology no longer needed to produce nutrition begins to decline. The bacteria populations shrink. The fungal networks thin. The earthworms move away from areas with chemical inputs. It's a living system that was producing nutrition for free, season after season, collapses quietly while you're focused on the growth above the surface. And now you need more fertilizer next year, more the year after. The dose increases, the dependency deepens. The soil becomes less and less capable of supporting plants without chemical input. This is not a side effect. This is the business model. The Amish looked at this cycle generations ago and refused to enter it. Not because they couldn't access fertilizer. Because they understood that a garden dependent on purchased inputs is a garden that can be taken from you the moment those inputs become unavailable or unaffordable. They wanted something no one could take. A garden that feeds itself. And the foundation of that garden starts with understanding one thing that changes how you see every handful of soil you ever touch again. Comment below, how much have you spent on fertilizer in the last 2 years? Be honest. I want to show you what that money could have built instead. The nitrogen cycle-free fertilizer from air. 78% of the air around you right now is nitrogen. Nitrogen, the primary nutrient in every fertilizer bag you have ever bought, is literally surrounding your garden in infinite supply, above every leaf, between every plant, everywhere, always, in quantities that dwarf anything you could ever pour from a bag. The Amish access it for free, and the mechanism is one of the most elegant things in all of biology. Certain bacteria, called rhizobium, live in the soil and have the extraordinary ability to capture atmospheric nitrogen and convert it into a form that plants can absorb. These bacteria form a partnership with legume plants, clovers, beans, peas, vetch attaching to their roots in small pink nodules that you can see if you pull a clover plant and look at the roots. Inside those nodules, the bacteria are working constantly, pulling nitrogen from the air, converting it, delivering it directly to the plant's root system, and critically, releasing the excess into the surrounding soil where neighboring plants can access it. A single season of clover cover cropping deposits the equivalent of 80 to 120 kilograms of nitrogen fertilizer per hectare into the soil, from the air at zero cost, with zero environmental impact. The Amish plant legumes throughout every garden, every season, without exception. Beans between rows of corn, clover as a living mulch between brassicas, vetch as a winter cover crop. They are not just growing food, they're continuously fertilizing the soil, using nothing but biology and air. Fast nitrogen fix. If your soil is clearly nitrogen deficient right now, yellowing leaves starting from the bottom of the plant, plant white clover as a living mulch. Immediately between your existing crops. It establishes in 2 weeks, begins fixing nitrogen in 4, and feeds the surrounding plants within the same season. Costs almost nothing. Save this video. The next section covers the composting method that replaces every other fertilizer you have ever used. You will want to watch this part twice. It's compost, the complete fertilizer. If you could design the perfect fertilizer from scratch, one that contained every nutrient a plant needs, in perfectly balanced ratios, in slow-release form that feeds continuously for months. That also improves soil structure, feeds beneficial biology, suppresses disease, and retains moisture, it would look exactly like finished compost. The Amish have been making it for 200 years, and they make it differently from how most people think about composting. They treat it as a precise biological process, not a passive pile. The layering system is exact. Brown carbon material, dry straw, dried leaves, shredded cardboard, laid 15 centimeters deep. Then green nitrogen material, fresh kitchen scraps, grass clippings, fresh garden waste, animal manure, another 15 centimeters. Then a thin scattering of finished compost or healthy garden soil to inoculate the pile with the bacteria that will do the work. Then brown again, then green, then inoculant. Repeated until the pile is at minimum 1 meter tall. Moisture is managed like a living thing because it is. The pile should feel like a wrung-out sponge. Squeeze a handful and 2 or 3 drops of water come out. Too wet and the pile goes anaerobic, producing sulfur smells and slow decomposition. Too dry and decomposition stops entirely. Turning happens every 5 to 7 days. Each turn introduces oxygen, the fuel for the aerobic bacteria doing the decomposition. A properly managed pile reaches 55 to 70 degrees Celsius internally. At that temperature, weed seeds are killed, pathogens are destroyed, and decomposition is rapid. In 6 to 8 weeks, what was kitchen scraps, straw, and manure becomes something more nutritionally complete than any product on any garden center shelf. And here's the thing that makes Amish compost different from what most gardeners produce. They use everything. Kitchen scraps, every vegetable peel, every eggshell, every coffee ground. Wood ash from their fires, rich in potassium and calcium. Animal bedding, straw mixed with manure, already partially composted from the barn floor. Crop residues from the previous season. Leaves from every tree on the property. Nothing leaves the system as waste. Everything returns to the soil. That is the closed loop that makes external fertilizer unnecessary. You remove food from the garden. The scraps from that food go into the compost. The compost returns to the garden. Every nutrient that left comes back. Compost tea. Take 1 part finished compost. Add 10 parts water. Aerate with an aquarium pump for 24 hours. The microbial population multiplies into the billions. Strain and apply directly to soil at the base of plants, 1 liter per plant weekly. This is liquid biology. It rebuilds soil life faster than any other single intervention. Subscribe and hit the bell. Next video covers the exact Amish soil building method that turns dead gray soil rich and dark in one season. This series goes deep, and it is all free. Companion planting, the system that replaces chemicals. The Amish do not use pesticides. They do not use herbicides. They do not use fungicides. But their gardens are not overrun with pests. Their crops are not destroyed by disease. Their weeds are managed without chemicals. How? They build the garden so that it manages itself. Companion planting, the deliberate placement of specific plants together for mutual benefit, is not a vague folk tradition in an Amish garden. It is a precise, functional system built on biology, chemistry, and generations of observation. Basil planted beside every tomato plant releases volatile oils that repel thrips, aphids, and tomato hornworm moths. The scent confuses the pest's ability to locate the tomato by smell. The pest moves on. Nasturtiums planted at the edge of every bed act as a trap crop. Aphids flock to them instead of the vegetables. The Amish remove and compost the nasturtiums when loaded with pests. Main crops untouched. Dill, fennel, and yarrow planted throughout the garden attract parasitic wasps and hoverflies, beneficial insects that lay their eggs inside, caterpillars and aphids, destroying them from within. The beneficial insect population builds season by season. Pest pressure drops year on year without a single spray. Marigolds planted generously release a compound from their roots called alpha-terphenol that suppresses root knot nematodes in the soil. They attract ground beetles that hunt soil-dwelling pest larvae. And their strong scent confuses a broad range of flying pests trying to locate crops by smell. Tall plants, corn, sunflowers, climbing beans shade the soil surface, suppressing weed germination. Low ground covering plants, clover, thyme, chamomile, fill every gap between taller crops, leaving no bare ground for weeds to colonize. The Amish garden does not look like a conventional garden. It looks complex, almost chaotic. But every plant is there for a reason, and together they create an ecosystem so balanced, so self-regulating, that pest outbreaks, the kind that devastate monoculture gardens, almost never happen. Three Sisters, the oldest Amish companion planting system. Corn, beans, squash planted together. Corn provides a climbing structure for beans. Beans fix nitrogen that feeds the corn and squash. Squash leaves shade the soil, suppressing weeds and retaining moisture. Three plants, zero inputs. Maximum yield from minimal space. Plant them together this season. Share this video with one person who is still buying fertilizer and pesticides every season. This information is completely free and could save them hundreds of dollars a year. The Amish are not gardening the way they do because they cannot access modern products. They are gardening the way they do because they made a decision generations ago that their food supply would not depend on anything they could not make themselves. No bag they have to buy, no spray they have to order, no company they have to trust, no price increase they have to absorb, just soil they have built, biology they have nurtured, plants they have selected, knowledge they have earned. And that garden feeds their family every year, without fail. That is not a small thing. In a world where food prices rise every season, where supply chains break, where the cost of every input keeps climbing, a garden that needs nothing from outside itself is one of the most valuable things a person can build. You can start building it today. Plant one legume this week: beans, clover, peas. Start one compost pile this weekend. Lay mulch on one bed before the end of the month. 3 actions. The system begins. And a year from now, you will look at a bag of fertilizer on a garden center shelf and feel something you have never felt before. Nothing. Because you will not need it. If this video gave you something real, like it, share it, leave a comment. It costs you nothing, and it helps this channel reach more people who need to hear this. I will see you in the next one.